I'm Gail Clark and I run our Let's Read programme, which is a volunteer programme in schools working on with the children to help improve literacy and language skills. We run a programme of recruitment, training and coordination of volunteers so that we can help the schools raise the levels of literacy with the children. So the volunteers, once they've been recruited and DBS checked, they go into schools once a week and they're assigned 4 children and they work individually with those 4 children, working on their reading skills, so that's decoding the words, comprehension, fluency. But it's not just about the reading, it's about somebody going into school to see them, having that one-to-one to attention, hoping that we can increase their confidence, we can increase their interest in reading. So not just helping educationally, but emotionally and socially as well. Because a lot of the children in a school, if you've got 30 children in a class, with the best will in the world, the teacher can't support them on a one-to-one basis. So that's where we come in, kind of plug that gap when we can. The children love it because they love coming out of the class and having that individual time. Somebody listening to them, telling them about the book and what they're reading, but also talking about the school day, what they might have done in the holidays, different things like that. And then of course the volunteers get to enjoy going into school and spending time with the children. It's very rewarding for them, especially when they read with the same children each week, so they can get to see the progress that the children are making. And obviously when they go into school and the children are like, Miss, can I read with you today? You know, that's a great feel-good factor to, as well for the volunteers. And it does come through because like sometimes some of my volunteers I've had for a number of years, especially one lady, she's been with us for over 20 years now, reading with children at the same school. So that's proof that it works. 20 years, yeah. I came to Learning Partnerships in 1998 as an administrator on a different school literacy project. And I've just kind of worked my way up really to it. I've run this programme for about the last, must be about 15, 16 years. So the number of children we've had who've had support from the volunteers must be thousands. What do I enjoy? I just love every part of the job really. I mean, I get to meet some absolutely lovely people, of the volunteers who are giving their own time to support the programme, to support the children. I get to go into schools, I get to meet the children. We're providing support for those children, helping them to develop, helping them to reach their potential. And then every single day is different. I come to work and I might be binding books together for the training manuals for the volunteers, or I might be going to talk to some new volunteers about what's it's involved. I still get the feel-good factor from it. And when that stops, that's time for me to finish, but it's never stopped in 20 years. The hardest part, this last year has been the hardest part. Sometimes things don't work out and we have to go back to the drawing board, but this year's been the hardest because obviously because of COVID we haven't had any volunteers in schools. So I've been looking at other ways to support the schools, and where I live in East Leeds we've got a Facebook recycling site, and because the charity shops have been closed and people have been clearing out, people advertise what they don't want anymore on this site. And then if you're the first one to say, oh, can I have it please? So I've been collecting books for the schools. So I've collected nearly 500 children's books over the last 2 months, which I've been distributing to the 13 schools that we work with on the programme. So they're either for free readers in school or for the for the schools to give to the children to take homes, because a lot of the children that we work with don't have books in the home and they don't have support in the home, which is another good thing about having the readers, plugging that gap as such. Prior to COVID, we had 80 volunteers, so if those volunteers are all supporting 4 to 5 children, that's well over 300 children getting the support each week. And that's what I say to people, when they say, I'd love to be a volunteer, but what difference can I make in an hour a week? If we all do our part collectively, you're part of a team of 80 volunteers who are supporting over 300 children. So when you look at it like that, it's much bigger. It's massive, that support. We're always looking for further funding because that's part of my role, is to find the funding to keep the programme running each year. The most difficult thing at the moment are the restrictions on schools. Obviously the schools are open again now and the children are back, but most of the schools don't have any external visitors going in. So the volunteers can't start again, and that's the really difficult part, because a lot of the children, that especially in the areas where we work, they've missed so many months of school-based learning that they're falling way behind, and that achievement gap is widening between them and I mean there's always there's always a gap in the achievement between disadvantaged students and more affluent peers, but those children have missed so much schooling and there won't have been a great deal of home learning, so they're falling even further behind. So the volunteers are needed in school for the support even more, and we just can't get in because of the restrictions. Although we are hoping, definitely in September they'll be back, but we are hoping that with some schools we can get some of the volunteers back on a phased, kind of like a phased return, especially our volunteers who've had their vaccinations. We can get those back in the summer term. It's everything, isn't it? It's their education, but it's also, it depends where they've been isolated, the children, you know, if they've been deprived socially as well, you know, it's a really frightening. That is one of the really difficult things, and that's why one of the parts of the programme, we didn't want it to be just the children going cat sat on the, because a lot of the children can read the words, because they learn to read by phonics now. They sound out the letters, they can blend them, they can read the words. But if you ask them about a question about what's happening, they've no idea. Because like we could read words in a different language, but if I was asked to translate, say a passage in Spanish, I wouldn't be able to. So a lot of what we do at the training with the volunteers is getting them to check that the children are understanding what they're reading, and delving a bit more behind, well, why did that happen? What could have happened? Those sort of things. So get them to talk about the book. So we call it sharing books as opposed to the just reading, because being able to read the words is only part of reading. It's easy for a child to sit there and go, and you think, oh, that child's a good reader. But when you ask them something, they've not understood a word. So it's about the volunteer, and the volunteers got time when they're with the children to ask them questions and make sure they are understanding what they're reading. So it's just a complete win-win situation, is the volunteering. Children love it, the volunteers love it, and the children make progress. I think just because if you've got a curriculum to teach and you've got 30 children in a class, and the level is so different throughout the class, the ability, that you haven't got that time, and that's particularly what we like about, for the volunteers to be able to do, is to check that the children are reading and ask questions around the story and everything to expand the vocabulary. It is just primary schools that we work with. The transition from primary to high is massive, and if you're not reading at the average age of an 11-year-old by the time you reach the end of primary, then when you move to high school you can't access the curriculum because it's too hard, and that's when trouble starts. You don't want to do it, therefore you don't do it, you're embarrassed to do it, you fall behind, you don't want to go to lessons, you miss school, and it's that whole cycle. We're hoping that if we can make a difference to at least one or two children's lives, then it's all been worth it. One teacher said to me, it's the foundation of learning, being able to read. Because if you can't read, you can't learn. You learn to read and then you read to learn. We went through a peak period when corporate social engagement was really popular in companies. And we had quite a number of company volunteers. We have some from a law firm called Alshaw Goddard, we have some from British Gas, we have from Leeds City Council, and at one point we had some from other companies, but as things have been squeezed within companies financially and time-wise, we tend to have lost those. So it is more difficult now to get volunteers, yeah. We do have volunteers also from the community, people who are retired or not working and want to give back. So it's about 50-50 at the moment, but we're hoping we're able to recruit some new ones to start in the schools in September. We were Education 2000 up until the year 2000, and then obviously it was dated, so then we changed to Learning Partnerships. So since 2000, so over 20 years, we've been known as Learning Partnerships. Yeah, so we're always looking for new volunteers to expand the programme, because the more volunteers we have, the more children we can help. So if you've got an hour a week spare and you like children and you like reading, please get in touch, because it's going to be even more important going forward because of the lack of or the loss of school-based learning that the children have experienced over this last year. So we need you. So if you can spare an hour a week, please do.